The liver, our largest internal organ, has a multitude of roles to keep our body functioning and healthy. It has important functions for our nutrition, digestion, immune system, blood clotting, and energy storage. Just as the liver works hard, it is not immune to disease. In the Philippines, viral hepatitis, especially hepatitis B, affects millions of Filipinos each year. Hepatitis B is the most common cause of liver cancer in the country. The liver cancer is ranked second of the top cancer killers of Filipinos. This silent plague coexists with the most recent ominous threat. The body is in constant battle, and there is an urgent call to stand against this threat. This time, we protect the liver. As it constantly faces the threats of virus and cancer. Closely linked to each other in the Philippines, the leading cause of liver cancer is chronic viral hepatitis infection. The colors red and yellow symbolize viral hepatitis C. The green ribbon stands for liver cancer, while the emerald ribbon for the advocacy of curbing hepatitis B. In other parts of the world, viral hepatitis and liver cancer months are celebrated separately, but in the Philippines, we do so together. To fight these two intimately related diseases, various sectors must come together. Because liver cancer and viral hepatitis can be treated and even prevented, awareness is just the first step. With this emblem comes our battle cry, our mantra, our heart song. Recognizing that viral hepatitis and liver cancer awareness must go hand in hand. It is only in the Philippines, through Republic Act 10526, that the advocacy for both these diseases affecting the liver are reinforced together annually every January. This is our call to act.
This program is organized by the Department of Health, the Hepatology Society of the Philippines, the Philippine College of Physicians, the Philippine Association of Hepato-Pancreato-Biliary Surgeons, the Philippine Society of Medical Oncology, the Philippine Society for Pediatric Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition, and in partnership with the Philippine College of Surgeons, the Philippine Society of Gastroenterology, the Philippine Society of Digestive Endoscopy, the Philippine Society of General Internal Medicine, the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, and the Yellow Warrior Society Philippines. Malusog na atay, masayang buhay.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2023 Liver Cancer and Viral Hepatitis Prevention and Awareness Month Physicians Forum. To start our program, let us bow our heads for a prayer, followed by the national anthem.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still waters. His goodness restores my soul.
He guides my way in righteousness, and He anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on His pure delight.
And though I walk the darkest
The
path,
darkest
I
path,
will not
I will not fear
evil
one.
for you are with me, and your rod and staff are comfort I need to know. And I will trust in you alone. Yes, I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me
You lead me
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Good afternoon again and welcome to the 2023 Liver Cancer and Viral Hepatitis Prevention and Awareness Month Physicians Forum. This program is organized by the Department of Health, the Hepatology Society of the Philippines, the Philippine College of Physicians, the Philippine Association of Hepatopancreatobiliary Surgeons, the Philippine Society of Medical Oncology, and the Philippine Society for Pediatric Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition. This is also in partnership with the Philippine College of Surgeons, the Philippine Society of Gastroenterology, the Philippine Society of Digestive and Endoscopy, the Philippine Society of General Internal Medicine, the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, and the Yellow Warrior Society Philippines. To have our opening remarks, may we call on Dr. Wendell Espinosa. Dr. Wendell Espinosa is the Vice President of the Hepatology Society of the Philippines, and he is a faculty of the College of Medicine, University of St. LaSalle. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Wendell Espinosa.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sir Zach, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon to our consultants, colleagues, and friends. In behalf of the Hepatology Society of the Philippines, Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, and the Philippine Society of General Internal Medicine, and the rest of the participating medical societies, I welcome and thank everyone for joining us today. In 2016, it was estimated that there were 291 million individuals globally who were diagnosed to have hepatitis B. The Philippines ranks 5th in terms of the prevalence of HBsAg positivity. In fact, 1 in every 10 Filipinos have chronic viral hepatitis B, and the majority of them are in their productive years, from 20 years old to 59 years old. One of the common problems is they are not being accepted to their jobs because of their hepatitis B. In 2010, the Department of Labor and Employment has published the guidelines for the implementation of a workplace policy and program on hepatitis B. And in 2011, the Hepatology Society of the Philippines has published the guidelines on the evaluation of hepatitis B surface antigen positive workers for employment. We have invited expert speakers to enlighten us on this matter. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for today. Our moderator for today is the incumbent president of the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, a member of the Scientific Committee for Occupational Health of Healthcare Workers International Commission on Occupational Health, and an international member of the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. Please welcome Dr. Ana Sofia Victoria Fajardo.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc Wendell. Thank you for that very kind introduction. And again, on behalf of the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, we truly thank the Hepatology Society of the Philippines and all of the stakeholders in the celebration of Liver Cancer and Viral Hepatitis Prevention and Awareness Month this January. So for our topics for this afternoon, for our Physicians Forum, we will be having 2 esteemed speakers giving us some guidance with regards to hepatitis. And for our first speaker, we have Dr. Angelo Lozada. He had his fellowship training in gastroenterology at the Makati Medical Center, also in general hepatology at the Catholic Medical Center in Seoul, St. Mary's Hospital, South Korea. He is a fellow of the Philippine Society of Gastroenterology, also a fellow of the Philippine Society of Digestive Endoscopy, and is the board secretary of Hepatology Society of the Philippines. And I will also introduce our second speaker. Our second speaker is Dr. Felix Labanda Jr. He is the supervising labor and employment officer of the Department of Labor and Employment, Bureau of Working Conditions. He has his master in occupational health from the University of the Philippines and is also a fellow of the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine. So without further ado, we will start with our first speaker for this afternoon.
Good day. I am Dr. Angelo Lozada, and today we will be talking about hepatitis B and the management or the clearance of patients who have hepatitis B and are potential job applicants. For the first part, I will focus on why we need to know more about hepatitis B, and it is an important public health problem in our country. Number two, we will be discussing the objectives of why we need local guidelines and highlight the important aspects of these guidelines relevant to our day-to-day practice in the clinic. So let me start off with this shocking but surprisingly true statistic that 1 in 7 adult Filipinos is infected with hepatitis B. This article, which was published more than a decade ago, shows that there was 16 million estimated Filipinos to have hepatitis B. And there is probably even more to date. And one of the reasons why we have a high prevalence of hepatitis B in the country is because of the low vaccination rate, as well as strategies that have failed to curb the growing population of those who are infected with the virus. The national seroprevalence of hepatitis B, as stated by Dr. Wong, which was published in 2013 in the journal Hepatology, showed that there were around 16 to 17% of those who have hepatitis B. And these are based from national seroprevalence studies from the FNRI and the NNHES. Hepatitis B is also a carcinogen, which leads to liver cancer. And because of this, liver cancer has become the 4th leading cause of cancer overall, which is 2nd among men and the top 7 among women. And it has been the 2nd leading cause of cancer death overall in the country. Hepatitis B remains to be undiagnosed, largely undiagnosed, and largely untreated for many patients. There are millions who are infected, and probably only a third are aware that they have the disease or the infection. And half of these only receive care, and even less receive proper treatment. So we can see that from the many infected individuals, only a few are diagnosed, and even fewer of these individuals are referred for proper care, undergo proper testing, as well as treatment. There are many areas of improvement in terms of the care of hepatitis B, and we can see the following. One is to improve the awareness, especially those who are infected, who may be potentially infected. So the general public should be made aware about the prevalence of hepatitis B, as well as the possibility of having it, since the Philippines is highly endemic for this particular virus. Likewise, we should screen at-risk populations. And the Philippines, being an endemic country for hepatitis B, makes all Filipinos candidates for screening for hepatitis B. Also, when we check for hepatitis B, we should know what kind of diagnostic tests to request, because there are actually a number of different tests that can be requested. And these may run into thousands of pesos, if we don't economize and give a practical approach to the diagnosis. Also, another improvement is the evaluation for treatment. So we should be able to identify which among these patients who have hepatitis B should be undergoing antiviral treatment or other forms of care and treatment. The main trigger for coming up with these guidelines on employment was the popular practice of screening for HBsAg in the pre-employment setting. So it is common to see a patient in our clinics who was declared unfit to work and was denied employment. The basis for this practice is unknown to many, but can be traced to a department order from the DOH many years ago stating that screening for HBsAg be performed as required by prospective foreign employers. So this was passed on as a requirement even for the local employment. So subsequently, there was discrimination, stigmata, and denial of meaningful employment to otherwise qualified workers. So this resulted in a lot of ads such as these we can see here. They capitalize on those who are stigmatized and desperate to be employed. So what's the big deal in the HBsAg positive workers seeking employment? So these are the possible reasons why employment is denied. So number one is that hepatitis B applicant may develop an illness while on the job, in particular cirrhosis and its complications, as well as applicant may transmit the infection to the workplace, either to the co-workers or clients or customers. Although it is true that hepatitis B applicant can be sick while on the job, the natural history of hepatitis B can actually be variable, and then they can develop acute flares and progressive liver disease that may lead to cirrhosis or hepatocellular carcinoma. That's true. But the hepatitis B virus should not be treated differently from other chronic illnesses, such as hypertension or diabetes, which have their own complications. So they should be counseled and cared for and referred for care just as the same way as those who have hepatitis B or as well as diabetes or hypertension. Another reason would be the transmission of the infection. And transmission is actually determinant on many factors, and one of them is the risk of exposure, which accounts for the type of occupation, as well as the infectivity of a person or the status of a person's viral infection. Hepatitis B has not been documented to be transmitted by ordinary workplace activities, food preparation, coughing or sneezing, sharing utensils, plates, and glasses, sharing office supplies, sharing computers, even sharing lavatory seats. Occasional contacts such as handshaking, hugging, and kissing are not documented to transmit hepatitis B. Even swimming in the same pool, dining out, being in crowded places, as well as drinking in public drinking fountains are not documented modes of transmission of hepatitis B. So in these guidelines, we actually attempted to categorize the different types of occupation into high risk and low risk patients. So high risk patients are actually those who are healthcare workers who perform exposure-prone procedures. Exposure-prone procedures are largely limited to the healthcare setting. So it actually involves digital palpation of a needle tip in a body cavity and the simultaneous presence of the healthcare worker's fingers and the needle or any sharp instrument in a poorly visualized or highly confined space, or having interrupted vision during a surgical procedure. So, for example, a medical technologist who would be drawing blood would be working with needles, but would not would not have poor visualization of the instrument. Thus, he would not be in exposure-prone procedure, which would still fall under Category 2. So Category 1, high-risk patients actually are just limited to those who perform surgical procedures. And those who are non-healthcare workers would be automatically be Category 3 or low risk in nature. So this table puts all of this together and will be helpful in the assessment for the risk of transmission of hepatitis B in the workplace. The only applicants who should have work restrictions are those applicants who belong to Category 1 occupation and have high viral loads. So these Category 1 occupations are healthcare workers who are performing or have a reasonable expectation of performing exposure-prone procedures, or other workers whose occupation involves the potential for exchange of body fluids, such as commercial sex workers. Category 2 and 3, on the other hand, are cleared for employment with no work restrictions due to negligible risk of transmission, and the DNA is not a prerequisite for employment of these particular job applicants. So this slide would show you a simple algorithm that you can follow when you have a patient with hepatitis B needing pre-employment clearance. So you have to look if they have complications of their liver disease. Complications of liver disease would be hepatic decompensation or hepatocellular carcinoma. Thus, they would not be employable. Next, if they do not have complications, we should look at what kind of job they will be in. If they are Category 2 or 3, they fall within these categories, they are actually automatically low or negligible risk of transmission and should be cleared for employment without work restrictions. Those who are under Category 1 need to get a serum HBV DNA level. No? If it is more than 2,000 international units, they would be high risk for transmission and should have work restrictions and cannot perform exposure-prone procedures. Those who have a DNA level of less than 2,000 international units per ml are at low risk of transmission and may work without any work restrictions, but should be subject to regular monitoring. So in writing your pre-employment hepatitis B clearance, the following should be present. Number 1 is the phase of the chronic hepatitis B infection. Number 2 is the risk of transmission, either if it is low or high. And number 3, you should write your recommendation for employability or the limits of your clearance. So it's either you clear the patient for employment with no work restrictions, or clear for employment with work restrictions, but they should be specified as well as the reasons. And if there is no clearance, the reasons should be stated. Also, your plan of monitoring should be included in your pre-employment clearance, as this would guide the employer as well as the patient or the job applicant in terms of how to care for himself. So for example, regular transaminase levels and ultrasound every 6 months to 1 year would be a sample plan for care and monitoring. So these guidelines eventually became the basis for a Dolly advisory, which came out in 2010 to stop discrimination against hepatitis B infected persons applying for a job. So this was the Dolly advisory number 5. And policies that came out from this advisory states that positive hepatitis B surface antigen result should not be the basis to discriminate, restrict, or disqualify a job applicant from being employed. And number 2, those who have hepatitis B should not be declared unfit to work or denied employment without appropriate medical evaluation as well as counseling. Also, the pre-employment hepatitis B screening should not be made mandatory and should only be made mandatory for those who are applying for high-risk occupation, no? High risk of transmission in the workplace. Also, those who have hepatitis B should undergo pre-employment evaluation with at least the minimum following. So your HbA-AG and anti-HbE determination, your SGPT or ALT, as well as the ultrasound of the liver. So our fight continues against discrimination, especially here in the Philippines, where this virus is very endemic and has caused a lot of despair and a lot of frustration amongst job seekers and Filipinos who would like to be employed here as well as abroad. But we cannot do anything about other countries restricting hepatitis B positive job applicants. But in the Philippines, we hope that these bills that were introduced in 2019 would soon be passed into law. No, it just so happened that the COVID pandemic has halted the progression of these bills, both in the Senate as well as in the House. We have seen some local municipalities and local cities coming out with ordinances against discrimination, and we'd like to applaud the city of Davao coming up with this ordinance of anti-discrimination, including those who have hepatitis B in the workplace. There are many resources that one can look up, and one such resource is fairly new. These are the clinical practice guidelines spearheaded by the Department of Health together with other stakeholders here in the Philippines. And this was recently released in 2021 and is very much available online for free. One such stakeholder is the Hepatology Society of the Philippines, and one of our advocacies is to educate and empower our physicians, as well as our lay and as well as the general public in terms of hepatitis B. So we see here, you can see here that we offer lectures and workshops to different sectors, such as the DOH healthcare workers, different companies, as well as general practitioners, those who care for patients who have hepatitis B in and around the Philippines. Because it is our hope that one day we will have a hepatitis-free Philippines, no, a hepatitis-free nation. So in summary, I would like to conclude my talk with these following points. Number one, hepatitis B workers should not be declared unfit to work, no, and denied employment outright without appropriate medical evaluation and counseling. Number two, patients with chronic hepatitis B should not experience discrimination nor distance themselves from their family or other people, and should not be excluded from work, school, or other daily activities. And lastly, the Hepatology Society of the Philippines work hand in hand with national and local government to dispel discrimination and stigmatization through awareness and education.
All right.
So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and may you have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Lozada, for that very comprehensive lecture on pre-employment clearance for hepatitis B applicants. And now we move on to our next speaker, Dr. Felix Labanda Jr. Dr. Felix, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ria. I will just share my screen. Can I confirm that you're seeing my screen on presentation view?
Yes, Doc Felix, we see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ria. So again, good afternoon to everyone, to all physicians in this forum. This particular afternoon, we are looking at ano nga ba ang gagawin? What do we do when we have workers that have hepatitis B, and are they welcome in the place of work or yung ating po paggawa? Ang pinili kong medium ngayon ng ating pong pag-uusap is Tagalog, primarily because I want everyone to have a feel kung paano po ito ipapaliwanag or i-explain sa ating pong manggagawa in a language that they can be comfortable with. Hepatitis B should not be something na parang rocket science. Dapat ito ay maintindihan nila. Okay? So, ito po yung aking po mga pagsisiwalat or ang aking mga disclosures. Wala po akong kasalukuyang gawain na personal or professional na salungat or kumukontrol sa akin hinggil sa topic na ito. At ako po ay isang member ng special courses ng Philippine College of Occupational Medicine. So, ang discussion po nito, it was already discussed a bit by Dr. Lozada kanina, pero titingnan lang po natin how we are going to provide the particular information that we know to our workers in a manner that they can recognize. So first of all, we want to have a means for us to provide information that makes it at a easily relatable level. So for example, in this particular slide, you're seeing the difference between what is hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E, and how they are being transmitted. So on the on the left side of the slide, you can see that for hepatitis A and E, you are looking at fluid, fingers, flies, and fields. So these are the 4 Fs na pwede nating sabihin na ito yung paraan kung paano nyo ito nakukuha. So nilagay natin siya as AE, nakasunod or katunog ng TAE para yung ating pong manggagawa or our workers will be able to identify this is the way to determine if ano yung risk mo na makuha ito. And then of course, kung yung AE ay nandun na sa kabilang side, BCD na. Paano mo ba ito nakukuha? Dito po kasi ang kailangan po natin ma-determine na hindi lang po basta po ang ating pong workers ang at risk dito or ang ating mga pasyente, but also the decision makers, because sometimes the decision makers create avenue for this for discrimination because they don't know what they are looking at. Okay, so they're saying na, oh sige, I want to comply with the law. Paano ba sinasabi o dapat daw may hepatitis B in the workplace policy and program based on DOLE Department Advisory 5 Series of 2010? Ibig sabihin ba nun, testingin ko lahat ng worker ko with kung may hepatitis B sila or wala? Hindi po yun. And the only way for you to be able to determine kung ano nga ba talaga yung hinahanap sa iyo is one, to be oriented with what is required from the department advisory, and two, determine if your workers are at risk for contracting hepatitis B. Nagkakaroon po tayo ng avenue for discrimination when we look at hepatitis B as a disease that is extraordinary in nature, na parang kapag merong ganito, parang end of the world. How is this different from having a worker with cancer? How is this different from having a worker with, say, pneumonia, tuberculosis? It should not be a singling factor that you determine upon entry, because one, your worker does not easily transmit hepatitis B in the workplace. Of course, it's a different ball game if it's hepatitis A and hepatitis E. That being said, kailangan nandoon ka sa ito po ay ipapaliwanag ninyo sa management. So I'm talking here at, if you're a clinician, if you're a physician that's in the clinics and you're talking to a patient that is probably an HR or part of upper management, they need to know the difference between A and E versus B, C, and D in a manner that they can relate to, in a manner that they can recall. Para po, when they create decisions, when they create policies, it is of the appropriate type. And of course, when you have information relating to hepatitis B, you make sure that it is relatable to the worker. So for example, in this particular slide, that the data of which came from the World Health Organization as of 2019, it resounds that there is a 257 million infected individual, and that around 90% of which are infected chronically because they got it when they were young. Okay? And from the 257 million infected, sinasabi natin na ang nakakaalam lang that they are hepatitis B positive is about 10.5% or 30.4 million. And of this, only 6.6 million get treated, while 900,000 dies of liver cirrhosis or liver cancer. So it is very it attaches or this particular approach on how we are looking at hepatitis B in the context of the workplace, in the context of spreading it, or the advocacy of its the knowledge of it spreading to our patients and to our workers needs to be relatable to our workers. In the data from the Department of Health, they have recorded a 17% change or 17% increase in the cases of hepatitis, acute viral hepatitis from 2021 to 2022, which is from 287 in 2021 to 337 in 2022. You can see here that they have disaggregated hepatitis A or separated hepatitis A at 24 and then 28 respectively for 2021 and 2022, and then all other viral hepatitis are included in the total. So that would mean na okay, so the treatment for hepatitis A is different from that of hepatitis B because hepatitis A is easily transmitted in a regular setting, while in the hepatitis B, C, and D is relatively hard to transmit. So how do we address this? You need to determine how your workers will get infected. So if you're, for example, you are a physician that's getting a worker that has hepatitis B. So obviously you will have to determine this is how you're getting it. You're getting it from your tattoo, you're getting it from sex, you're getting it from blood, for drug use. Obviously, yun yung isa sa approach natin. But we also look at ano po ang trabaho ninyo? Are you, because a while ago, Dr. Lozada presented healthcare worker, non-healthcare worker that is not exposed, healthcare worker that is exposed, healthcare worker that is not exposed, and then non-healthcare workers. So those are the three categorizations of an occupation. However, on the other end, so in the spectrum of occupation, there's a lot of occupation, but you need to determine the exposure. And that is one of the category raised by Dr. Lozada a while ago. If your type of work is involving needles or probability of skin breaks, then you are at risk. That's one, especially if you're handling blood and blood products. However, if you're also handling products or items that have come into contact with blood and blood products, having cuts, abrasions, having open wounds on your hands and on any part of your body that may be exposed to these contaminated items, may also expose you to probability of contracting hepatitis B. So this would be including accommodation staff. What do you mean accommodation staff? In hotels. If the hotel staff is changing the bed linens and there is blood or liquid body fluids on the sheets, and they're handling it with their bare hands and they have open wounds, the probability of them, mind you, it's the probability. It's not 100% sure. It's not, but it's definitely not zero. It's still there. And of course, there's care workers, cleaning staff, correctional center workers. Marami po siya. So kailangan po, when you are handling a worker or a patient with hepatitis B, you ask, what are you doing? Specifically, what task are you doing? It's not, hindi po pwedeng sabihin na, ako po kasi ay driver. Would that be enough para masabi na siya ay magko-contract ng hepatitis B? Tingnan nyo, bukod sa pagdadrive nyo po, ano po ba yung ginagawa ninyo? Ako rin po yung pahinante. Ako rin po yung nagbubuhat ng mga maduduming linen papunta po dun sa truck. So, hindi lang siya driver. Yung job description niya goes beyond. So that's why it needs to be looked into. Now, sa kahit ano pong aspeto, ito man po ay nasa clinics ka or nasa pundo ka ng occupational health, lagi po tayong merong hierarchy of control. Laging gusto natin, tatanggalin natin ang posibilidad na makahawa or humahanap tayo ng paraan para ito ay mapigilan. So, nagfo-focus tayo madalas sa engineering control, administrative control, and PPE. Nasa konsepto po ng occupational health, meron po tayong tinatawag na Swiss cheese model of control. Ito ang nagsasabi na bukod po sa engineering control, dapat meron kang karagdagang administrative control, dapat may karagdagang PPE ka, kasi sinasabi natin, hindi sapat ang isa, hindi sapat ang dalawa. Kung ilan ang po pwedeng control, yun ang ilagay mo. Napakagastos po ba nito? Kapag ikaw ay nagkaroon ng hepatitis B, ang concern or ang anxiety na mararamdaman ng isang manggagawa ay wala pong katumbas. So nagkakaroon po ito ng effect sa kanyang mental health, which is already protected ng ating pong batas through Republic Act 11036. So importante po na kahit na ito po ay meron kang engineering control, huwag tayong hihinto. Dagdagan natin, lagyan natin ng administrative control. Pero katulad ng nabanggit po kanina, we do not stop on ano po ba ang trabaho ninyo. Lagi nating tinatanong. Actually, ito po medyo very specific na po ito sa mga nagpa-practice po ng occupational health or occupational medicine. Kasi ito po, inaalam na step by step, ano po ba ang ginagawa ninyo? Ano ang likelihood na kayo ay mahawa? Pag kayo po ba ay nagkaroon ng injury, gaano po ito ka-severe? Ano po yung risk level na inyo pong tinitingnan kung kayo po ay magkakaroon ng ganitong considerations. Bakit po? Kasi yung control measures na ating po sinasabi kanina tulad po ng engineering, administrative, and PPE, dito po siya papasok. So, in the world of sa mga clinics, we give advice, that is an administrative control, we give treatment para malaman po natin, sige, ito yung gagawin mo, infected ka, ito yung gagawin mong treatment, magagamot ka ba o hindi, oo o hindi. Yun ang sasabihin mo. Pero kung ikaw ay nagki-clear, finifit to work mo ang isang manggagawa, hindi ka abot dito eh. Pero tatanungin mo lang, ano ang nature ng ginagawa mo? Kapag ikaw ay merong hepatitis B, ikaw ba ay at risk na makapanghawa? Kasi kung ang risk niya po na makapanghawa siya, sa halimbawa siya ay magiging machine operator, high likelihood na masusugatan, high likelihood na kung ano yung nakasugat sa kanya, makakasugat sa iba, most probably, ito ay maikakalat niya. So yung confidence mo sa pagsasabi na, ay baka hindi ka pwede sa work na yan, na specific sa job description na yan, humanap ka ng ibang job description, yung confidence niyo po bilang physician becomes higher kasi alam mo, hindi pala pwede kasi ito pala yung consideration. Now sa pagpipigil po sa pagkakaroon ng infection, hindi lang po ito nakatali. We are not restricted to just being just looking at what is visible to us, but we also look at the controls that is available. So, for example, if you're in the hospital, meron po dapat sharps container. Tapos tingnan din po natin vaccination. This is a bioengineering control na done outside pero dinadala lang po. Yung vaccination po kasi hindi lang po ito basta-basta sasabihin mo o magpabakuna ka. Kapag ikaw ay isang clinician, maaari mo itong i-advise, pero sa loob po kasi ng pagawaan or sa workplace, kapag ito po ay binigay as an advice, ang magbabayad po kasi ng vaccine nito ay yung employer. So medyo mas mahirap po nakalakaran. Plus, pag mayroong reaction dun sa vaccine, ang cargo po ng burden nito, ng reaction or response to the reaction to the vaccine, ay mapupunta po sa employer. Kaya po, although it's an administrative control that we could, an engineering and administrative control that we can use, meron siyang caveat na konti. Kailangan mong tingnan ano ba ang immunization program na po pwede. This will be in alignment with Occupational Safety and Health Standards Rule 1960. Ito po ay batas or department order na nilabas po noong 1978 pa. So hindi na siya hindi siya bago, lumang-luma na po siya. So kaya po nakalagay dito ang vaccination program. Of course, isa po sa mga bullets na tinitingnan natin as administrative control is good housekeeping, which is part of your 5S. 5S po, nice to hear, pero difficult to implement, lalo na kung wala po tayong champion for our 5S, wala rin pong nagpo-promote nito at hindi ito institutionalized sa ating pong organization or sa ating pong mga pasyente. Then of course, ito pong mga PPE is our last line of defense. Usually, if you are relying just on the PPE alone for control of hepatitis B in the workplace or for hepatitis B, addressing hepatitis B for your patients, medyo late na po ito. So kapag nag-clear po kayo sa isang sa isang worker na pumasok ka sa workplace pero kailangan naka-gloves ka, kulang. Dapat merong mas nauna pa kasi base sa hierarchy of control nga natin, kailangan may engineering at merong administrative control. Hindi pwedeng PPE lang. Ang ating pong mga batas, katulad ng nabanggit ni Dr. Lozada kanina, meron pong binanggit na Department Advisory 5 Series of 2010. But before that, sinasabi naman po ng ating pong labor code na meron po tayong security of tenure, under po ng Article 3, meron din po tayong equal opportunity, work opportunities for all. So this is the underlying concepts or wisdom through which we say na dapat walang discrimination. Hindi natin sinasabi na from the goodness of our hearts, dapat walang discrimination. Hindi po. Sinasabi po ng batas natin na noon-noon pa man, dapat pinoproteksyonan ng Estado ang labor, which is yung ating pong mga workers. Dahil din po dito, na-create ang ating pong Occupational Safety and Health Standards para ma-promote po ang safe working conditions. Again, it was published 1978. Sa ating pong Philippine Constitution, ganun din po, sinasabi nito, the state shall always protect the health of its labor force and it shall be afforded protection sa kanya pong pagkakandak or in the conduct of work. Sa Labor Code of the Philippines po, binanggit na nagpo-promote po tayo ng employment and human resources development as well as ensuring industrial peace. So ito po, tulad na nabanggit ko kanina, meron po tayong occupational safety and health standards for this particular purpose. In the Civil Code of the Philippines, under Article 1701 and 1702, dapat po ang ating pong, o tinitingnan po nito na lahat po ng may kinalaman sa kontrata ng ating pong manggagawa ay pabor po usually, lagi sa manggagawa kasi ina-advocate nga, kahit even sa batas na walang discrimination. Now, in you, being clinicians or being doctors that give fitness to work, tingnan nyo lang po, ito ba ay makakasagabal or makakatulong? Kung kayo naman po ay tumutulong sa isang kumpanya na makapag-decide, ito bang manggagawa na to ay tatanggapin kahit siya may hepatitis B o hindi? Kailangan nyo pong ibigay yung inyong pong opinion na sabihin nyo, hindi ito makakasagabal sa kanyang pagtatrabaho. That is one. Pero titingnan nyo rin po, siya ba ay magpo-cause ng risk sa kanyang fellow workers o sa kanyang sarili. Pero syempre, kailangan ito ay masigurado ninyo through the review ng kanyang job description. Under ng Article 1710, tinitingnan din po natin ang yung probability of dismissal primarily because of hepatitis B. Sinasabi natin, hindi dapat natatanggal sa trabaho ang isang manggagawa because of hepatitis B dahil ito po ay labag sa batas. Ito po ang nagpro-promote ng discrimination, kumbaga kapag tinanggal mo siya sa trabaho. Looking deeper into Department Advisory 5, sinasabi nito, dalawa po kasi ang policies na pinapairal po in terms of the Department of Labor and Employment. There's always policies on civil policies as well as policies on safety and health. So, yung civil policies natin or social policies natin, always dun tayo sa no discrimination, afforded full protection of the law, lagi pong nandoon yan. And then of course, na medical confidentiality natin, nandun din under the Data Privacy Act of 2012. However, yung ating pong safety and health, tinitingnan din natin, is the worker likely to get infected through the nature of its workplace. So halimbawa, accommodation staff ka, ilayo na natin ng konti sa ospital kasi ospital medyo mas madaling ma-visualize eh. Pero kung ang inyong worker po ay isang bellboy, room attendant, chef, may possibility ba na siya ay mahawa? Meron bang ways through which siya ang na-contract niya ito? Kasi importante po yan, when your worker goes to you, nagpapa-fit to work siya, alam niyang siya ay hepatitis B positive, pero ayaw niyang sabihin sa kanyang workplace. Sabihin mo lang, okay, ano bang gagawin mo? Then you give the advice. Pero pag sasabihin mo, hindi naman nakakahawa yan, sige, ano ka na, fit to work. Fitness to work without considering the nature of the work of the worker is an injustice to the worker and the workplace. Kasi malay mo naman, meron talagang risk na ma-transmit niya ito. Lalo na kung ito ay mayroong through the nature of the work, exposure talaga siya sa blood and blood products. May exposure yung co-workers niya sa possibility ng blood and blood products niya. So yung masugatan. Now this is the more or less yung ating pong itsura ng policy and program on hepatitis B. Ito po yung component. Inisa-isa ko po or nilagyan natin ng konteksto on what should be included in this. So usually po for those that are not in the occupational safety and health field, the policies and programs are consumed by non-medical personnel. And non-medical personnel always requires an introduction. Bakit? Because tinitingnan po natin bakit tayo may ganito, anong legal basis nito, para malaman natin, do we have or are we in the green, or okay ba tayo na gumastos para sa policy and program na to? Having a policy and program just because it is being advocated by someone else is actually not a good platform para sabihin mo, ay kasi po sinasabi ni ganito, dapat meron tayo nito. So dapat meron tayo nito. Hindi po yun. Kasi bawat policy and program po sa loob po ng workplace ay may kaakibat po na gastos. And pag hindi po ito legally backed, wala po tayong, kahit na sabihin, na binanggit ni Dr. Lazada kanina, endemic sa Philippines yung hepatitis B. Bakit ba maraming hepatitis B? Ito po ba ay nakukuha sa workplace or nakukuha sa community? Definitely, kailangan nating hanapin saan yung possible entry point. So dun po ito po mapasok sa introduction. Then the coverage, tinitingnan lang po, nandito kasi pumapasok yung equality. Kapag minsan, the policies and programs of the company on hepatitis B is only for the rank and file. How about for the executives? Minsan, ang magpapa-fit to work sa inyo ay executive. Pwede ba sila o hindi? Since sila ay nagsusulat lang naman, bakit hindi? Pero bukod dito, tatanungin yan kasi, meron po ba kayong coverage in terms of your health? Doon po sa inyong mga diseases. Kasi this will also entail a burden. Kasi baka mamaya, finit to work nyo, pero meron din kayong binigay na gamot. Ito pong iinumin ninyo para kayo ay manatiling safe, para kayo manatiling or gumaling kayo. Pero hindi iniinom ng pasyente. Then you, as a physician, ay nagkakaroon ngayon ng tatanungin kayo, tatawagan kayo ng doktor ng kumpanya. Dok, bakit yung finit to work mo ay naninilaw na ngayon? Parang ganon, di ba? Kasi magkakaroon dapat ng clarity. Anong expectation ninyo from workers that are hepatitis B positive regardless of their employment level? Kumbaga, kung anong totoo para sa taas, yun din po anong totoo para sa baba, para wala pong discrimination. And then of course, the preventive strategies or preventive components, this one is not under dun sa ating pong mga nasa clinics, but for those that are in the company, you should look into the advocacy information and education of your workers. Yung training po, specific po ito para doon po sa mga workers natin that are in the healthcare. Tsaka yung mga actors doon sa non-healthcare sector. So halimbawa, you are a manufacturing company, merong nurse, may doktor. Yung training po on hepatitis B, dapat meron po si nurse at si doktor. Pero other than that, yung mga less technical na pagdi-discuss, meron din po dapat sa inyo pong mga workers. Because again, since this is a disease that has a work repercussion but can be acquired outside of the workplace, kailangan meron po kayong pagdudugtong or means for it to be addressed at its different levels. So yung preventive strategy po nito is going to be addressed by the advocacy, information, and education. If this is not enough, hindi po matatarget yung mga preventive strategies natin na alam naman natin in epidemiology and biostatistics, di ba, meron tayo laging primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. And this is very critical in our control of hepatitis B in the workplace. I cannot overemphasize the social policies or yung patakarang panlipunan na pinaiiral po because of the Department Advisory 5 Series of 2010 na dapat there should be non-discrimination, there should be at least work accommodation and arrangement, depende po sa manggagawa, and then confidentiality. Sa patient-doctor confidentiality, okay na tayo doon, walang problema. Pero what if si HR ng company sumulat sa iyo na doktor, na clinician, nagtatanong, Doc, ano po ba ang status ng worker namin? Kasi mukhang meron po kaming problema. Kapag ganun po ang sitwasyon, binigay niyo siya ng fit to work During the time na nakita niyo, fit to work naman talaga. You also ask, meron po ba kayong doktor dyan? I would like to talk with your doctor or with your nurse sa company. Pwede rin po tanangin ninyo regarding what po ito, regarding saan. Kasi syempre, kailangan meron pa rin confidentiality. If there's going to be someone that's going to break the confidentiality, it should be the owner of the data, which is yung ating pong worker or patient. Okay? So sa health policy naman po, screening should never be mandatory. The diagnosis could be secondary na lang. Sabihin, na-diagnose ka dahil nanilaw ka, na-diagnose ka kasi sumakit yung tiyan mo, yun ang nakitang isa sa rason. It could be coming from that. But it should be a matter of policy na hindi na po nag-i-screen kasi it is an avenue for discrimination. Depende po, again, depende po ito sa nature ng papasukan. Mamaya po, i-discuss natin ito. So the treatment is optional. Ibig sabihin po, when I wrote here optional, it's because it is not the primary focus of the company to be a treatment center for hepatitis B. So if you're a clinician from outside, treatment syempre is mandatory. That's the reason why the worker or the patient went to you. But for the companies, treatment is usually optional. Ito ay binibigay or pinapasa po natin sa HMO. Yun po yung nagpo-provide ng treatment. Kinakailangan lang po, meron pong referral system for the services na kinakailangan. Then another critical factor would be the benefits and compensation. It would be striking a balance between productivity, income, and the right to just wage. Ang ibig sabihin po ng just wage, kung ikaw ay sa loob ng isang buwan, ikaw ay pumasok ng 2 araw lang, all the rest of the time, ikaw ay hindi pumasok, paano kikita ng enough para mabuhay? So dyan na po papasok ang sick leave, vacation leave, kung merong additional na leave na pwede ibigay sa worker, dito na po siya papasok. It is not for the clinicians outside, it is for the doctors inside companies to haggle, to fight for kung ano yung pwede pang maipiga na po pwedeng compassionate giving of the leaves. Kung wala naman talaga, meron pa bang ibang ways para makapag-claim ng iba pang benefits or compensation tulad ng pwede ba itong ipasok sa SSS or GSIS, pwede ba ito sa ECC? This is looked into as part of the policy and program. And of course, the roles and responsibilities of both employers and workers should be identified and defined. Sa program implementation, this is very technical na. Just quick pass. Kailangan lang alam po natin kung ano po yung minomonitor. Pag sinabi pong hepatitis B in the workplace, we're not after the number of workers that were screened for hepatitis B, but how the program is being implemented, how many of the workers have knowledge on hepatitis B. That is a big thing because knowledge is power. Diba? Madalas natin alam yan. So effectivity, alam naman natin lahat yan. Now, ito may very quick lang po for the non-clinicians, yung mga, non-hospital based. Doon po sa loob ng kumpanya, kailangan po, tinitingnan po natin ang ating pong policy in terms of its life cycle. Kasi ngayon po, meron po tayong Department Advisory 5 Series of 2010. 2010 pa po siya. Mula po noong 2010 hanggang ngayon, ano na po ang status ng hepatitis B in your workplace? Ito po ba ay myth? Ito po ba ay nagagawan po ng paraan? Ito po ba ay no pa rin? Kasi kung hanggang ngayon, mula noon hanggang ngayon, halimbawa 2010 ito nilabas, 2023 na ngayon. So meron ng more or less 22 years na nagsisirculate ang department advisory, kung hanggang ngayon ang kumpanya nyo ay wala pa ring policy and program, then most probably yung knowledge base po ng inyo pong executives and knowledge base ng inyo pong worker is going to be very low. So pag kayo sa mga clinicians naman po, yung mga nasa hospitals po natin, kapag kayo po ay nakakita ng patient, nalaman nyo siya ay worker din, tanungin nyo lang po, ano ang knowledge level mo in terms of hepatitis? Kapag wala po siyang halos knowledge level, either bagong pasok lang siya sa workplace or yung workplace niya, wala siya talagang policy on hepatitis B. Okay? Kaya siya medyo mahirap. So ito po yung madalas na tinatanong sa amin. May Hepa B ang aplikante, makakapasok pa ba siya sa trabaho? Pwede po, kasi wala po dapat discrimination against workers on the basis of their hepatitis B status. Paano kung gusto niya magtrabaho sa ibang bansa? Pwede po ba siya mag-apply? Pwede niyo po bang bigyan ng clearance? Actually, depende po sa bansang pupuntahan. Usually, kung ang bansa pong ito ay hindi tumatanggap ng hepatitis B positive na manggagawa, wala po tayong magagawa because these are laws of that particular country that was placed there to protect their own citizens. So wala tayong magagawa about that. Kailangan bang ikaw na physician from the hospital, nalaman mong may hepatitis B ang isang manggagawa, alam mo rin na meron silang OH physician sa company, kailangan ba niyang i-divulge? Siya po ay hindi po siya pinipilit na mag-divulge. Ito po ay dapat pusang loob niyang gagawin. And then, kung gusto magreklamo po ng isang empleyado kasi dumating sa inyo, galit na galit si worker kasi daw siya ay tinanggal sa trabaho, so magpapakliran sa inyo sa hepatitis B. Sabihin niyo po, natanggal ka ba sa trabaho? O, ito yung narinig ko mula kay Dr. Felix dun sa aming inattendan. Kung nasa trabaho ka pa, pwede kang pumunta sa NCMB o sa Dole Regional Office. Pwede kang magreklamo doon, tutulungan ka nila. Kung tinanggal ka na talaga sa trabaho, pwede kang pumunta sa National Labor Relations Commission, NLRC, or Dole Regional Office para matulungan ka nila. Para kung meron silang kinakailangang agreement between the employer and the worker, si Dole po ang makakatulong. So this is a service that you provide for your worker kasi meron na po kayong information. Meron palang tinatawag na SENA para makatulong sa aking pasyente because your patient is not just a patient na darating sa clinic ninyo na okay na siya. Laging iniisip saan kukuha ng panggastos sa paggamot. And syempre, kailangan mo ng trabaho para ito ay magawa. Okay. So, this is the last slide, I think. So even yung mga waiters po natin na may hepatitis B, as long as sila po ay hindi naman na-expose or yung kanilang job description does not increase the probability of them spreading hepatitis B sa kanila pong mga kasamahan sa trabaho or sa mga kliyente po nila, pwede po silang magtrabaho. Again, marami pong salamat sa inyong pakikinig.
Thank you so much, Doc Felix. And thank you also to Dr. Lazada, who was our first speaker for this afternoon's Physicians Forum with regards to employment clearance for hepatitis B applicants. Ayan. So we are now opening the floor for questions from our participants. But first, maybe I'd like to apologize for any inconvenience to those who were not able to join, but hopefully those who are with us through our Facebook live stream, then hopefully your questions would be answered through there, no? Okay, so hopefully we get some questions from our FB Live audience, if not from our Zoom audience. Okay, so maybe for our first question, if I may throw the first question to Dr. Felix first po, no? If that's okay. Dr. Felix, yes. What type of, sa tingin niyo po, what type of work restriction ang dapat na ibigay natin sa mga workers with hepatitis B or viral hepatitis? Yeah,
Okay,
very
so
general po. Very general.
medyo general. Pero kung viral
Opo.
hepatitis in general, syempre kung meron silang hepatitis A, dahil alam natin yung means of transmission nito, dapat yun din ang tinitingnan natin. Ito bang worker na to ay magka-handle ng food? Diba? Kung hepatitis A. So, kailangan non-food handling. Diba? Lalo na kung meron tayong mga commissaries. Ang commissary po yung doon po nagagawa ng mga pagkain o nagluluto ng mga pagkain natin. Ano? However, for workers that have hepatitis B, C, and D, lagi ko pong inuulit sa mga talks namin if the job description does not entail having sex in the workplace, mukhang wala tayong masyadong restrictions. However, may caveat kasi. Dahil sa mga healthcare professionals, merong probability na sila ay mahiwa, lalo na kung merong mga pasyente. So kung halimbawa, may possibility na sila ay mahiwa habang nag-oopera or habang nag-assist sa operating table, yung risk na yung drop of blood nila transmits a disease to the patient becomes higher. So pag ganun po, siguro instead na OR nurse siya na naka-scrub in, pwedeng circulating nurse siya, nurse pa rin. Pwede pa rin siya mag-work. Ganon din po sa mga physicians. Kung halimbawa, ikaw ay physician, kailangan mong mag-work, siguro in a manner na hindi yung body fluids mo or blood products mo would expose another person or another coworker doon sa sitwasyon. Siguro, again, binabalikan ko lagi, Dr. Ria, ang ating pong goal na it is about the job description rather than the worker alone. Kasi looking at the worker alone is an injustice. Kailangan, ano ba ang kanyang ginagawa? Thank you.
Tama po. Thank you, Dr. Felix. That's very clear, no? So, depende sa kanilang trabaho kung sila ay magkakaroon ng some kind of work restriction because of hepatitis. Okay. So, Dr. Wendell, are you okay to answer
good
some
afternoon
questions?
All right.
Because of
Sige
our
po.
technical difficulties. Sige.
So, we would like to
suppose-
apologize to our dear physicians po. We're having a major glitch with the Zoom. But anyway,
It's all right.
I think
We're
there's nothing we
here.
can do about it as of this time. No?
Yeah.
We really apologize. No, we will do what we can. Dr. Lozada was,
Okay.
I will be replacing Dr. Lozada. No? But anyway, hopefully I can answer. I can give more
Okay.
wisdom. Anyway, so go ahead.
All
Doc,
right.
Doc. Anyway, in addition
Okay,
to what Dr. Labanda was saying, no,
Okay. Sige.
as alluded to by Dr. Lozada a while ago in his lecture, we should categorize yung in addition to phase of chronic hepatitis B, we should dapat ilagay po natin yung risk of transmission. Ano po ba ito? No? You have to categorize po. Category 1, health worker po ba siya with exposure-prone procedure? Yun nga sabi ni Doc, yung kung surgeon ka or in our place, kung gastroenterologist ka nagpo-perform ng procedure, or yung nga, sexual health worker, ito po yung mga category 1. Yung category 2 naman, healthcare workers po, pero nasa office lang, so category 2 po yun. Category 3 naman, ito pong halimbawa, yung mga food vendor, so yun po, negligible po kasi yung category 3, yung negligible po yung risk of transmission. Yung sa category 2 po, low risk of transmission. Yung category 1 po, ito yung mga high risk of transmission, no?
Okay. Thank you, Doc Wendell. And Mini, siguro going to the phase, no? Yung parang which phase of the hepatitis disease would deem an employee unfit for work? Sa tingin niyo po, anong phase of their disease would deem them unfit for work?
Okay, medyo tricky yung question, But anyway, so there are 4 phases po ng chronic hepatitis B. By the way po, just a review, no? When we say chronic po, more than 6 months po, na positive yung S or HBsAg natin, more than 6 months, or positive po yung anti-HBsIgG po, So yun. So there are 4 phases. One is the immunotolerance phase. The other one is the immune active phase. The other one is the inactive carrier or inactive phase. The fourth one would be the reactivation phase, no? So how can we differentiate one from the other po, no? At least we need 3 laboratories. One would be the HBV DNA, kung kaya po ng patient. Number 2 would be yung e-antigen status po ng patient. Positive ba siya sa e-antigen? HBeAg, positive ba siya? And anti-HBe positive ba siya or negative? The third one would be the ALT, no? So, or the SGPT in the old parlance, no? So,
Right.
immunotolerant, when we say immunotolerant, meaning tinotolerate ng katawan natin. Nandyan yung yung virus, sabi ng katawan, okay lang. Kaya yung ALT niya or SGPT niya, normal. Kahit mataas yung HBV DNA. Tapos e-antigen positive po siya. Yun po yung immunotolerant phase. Yung ano naman po, yung inactive phase, yung immune active phase, ito po yung SGPT, medyo mataas na. Nagpa-fluctuate po siya, no? Tapos yung HBV DNA, mataas pa rin, medyo nagpa-fluctuate pa din, no? Yung e-antigen niya, it could be positive or negative, no? Yung inactive naman po, ito po yung e-antigen negative sila, ALT niya normal, HBV DNA niya mababa, no? When we say mababa, kung e-antigen positive, less than 20,000 po yun, no? Kung e-antigen positive, less than 2,000 po yun, no? Yung reactivation phase naman, e-antigen negative siya, tapos naging positive siya. So yun naman po. Anyway, to answer the question, yun nga sa guidelines po ng HSP po, no? Maybe we cannot clear somebody po, ano? One, kung may complications na po siya. 70 to 80% of patients with chronic hepatitis B can live a normal life, no? Unfortunately, 20 to 30% may have what you call these complications like cirrhosis or liver cancer, no? So in which case, talagang hindi mo siya makaklear. Yung second siguro naman would be ano yung trabaho niya. Yung trabaho niya, no? That would be another issue po, ano? Kung exposure prone po ito, so maybe may restriction po, ano? Lagyan na lang sa clearance, cleared for employment but with restriction. So doon siguro yung mga klaro, no? To answer your question, definitely po kung nagfi-flare yung patient, mataas po yung SGPT niya, manananinlaw yung patient. So maybe we cannot clear that patient as of that time po, ano? So yun, pero kung asymptomatic naman po yung patient, maybe it depend on those 2 factors. Yung clear presence of complications or yung nga ng nature of work patient.
Nature of work. That's right. Thank you so much, Dr. Wendell. So very very comprehensive and really marami talagang kailangan i-consider with regards to clearance for fit to work for our hepatitis B applicants, no, the workers with hepatitis B. So maybe going back to Dr. Labanda, so there we have some questions from Facebook, from Shifu. Doc, kadalasan ang doctors sa mga ka-tie up na company na pinapamedical nagbibigay ng unfit to work. Tapos, sasabihin ng company na doktor na mismo nagsabi, paano ba gagawin namin since doktor na ng diagnostic clinic ang nagbigay ng unfit to work? I'll repeat that question. Okay lang, Doc Felix, naintindihan na po.
Nagets ko. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Actually, the question is, medyo conundrum siya eh. Because, katulad ng pinaliwanag ko kanina, di ba? Minsan, kahit na doktor ka na, hindi mo pa rin alam bakit nga ba nagkaroon ng hepatitis? Anong hepatitis ang ina-address mo? And actually, the major question there is, bakit kasama sa pre-employment nila ang hepatitis B screening? Ano ba ang gagawin doon? That in itself is a red flag. Kaya lagi kong sinasabi sa manggagawa, kung nagpapascreen sila sa hepatitis B, ano pa ang occupational safety and health violation yan sa loob? Kasi ito, papasok ka pa lang, meron na agad violation. Ano pa ang, baka mamaya pag nakuryente ka dyan sa loob, wala silang pananagutan kasi mag-cut off sila ng tie sa'yo. So, these are actually red flags ng mga kumpanya. Now, kapag ang doktor ang nag-unfit to work, ang mga doktor po sa diagnostic clinics are minsan hindi pa sila nakaka-attend ng mga ganitong symposium. We encourage them to attend more. Kasi hindi naman porkit hindi mo alam before, hindi mo na siya alam forever. Okay? Sabihin na, ako po ay unfit to work. Punta lang po kayo sa regional office ng DOLE. Ipakita nyo po, unfit to work po ako ng ganitong doktor. Para sa DOLE Regional Office, pupuntahan po yung clinic. Bakit niya pupuntahan yun? Clinic yun. It's a workplace. Titingnan niya ngayon, clinic, ano po ang yung hepatitis B in the workplace policy and program. Kasi doon mo makikita kawalan ng information ang nagdadala nitong pag-create ng PEME or pre-employment medical examination that has hepatitis B screening at yung doktor na nagsabi na unfit ka just because you have hepatitis B ay malamang hindi niya rin naman alam kung ano yung papasukin na trabaho ng manggagawa kasi he's from another company. Nauuso po ito kaya nga po sinasabi namin lagi, ang pagka-classify po ng fitness or unfitness to work should not be done by a physician that is outside of the company. Dapat yun ay decision ng kumpanya at dapat, kasi ano po yan fitness for work applied for. Hindi siya fitness for work in general. Kasi hindi porket hepatitis B positive ka, you are unemployable. You can be employed. Pero syempre kung medyo madilaw ka, hindi ka pwedeng receptionist. Diba? May mga ganong kasing sitwasyon na siguro po another line of work. Not this work, but yes, you can still be employed. Parang ganon po. Sorry if I hope I'm able to answer that. Medyo tricky
Yes,
question.
I think tricky question, pero I think that's clear that it should also be the OH physician or the company doctor really reviewing as well, no, the work that's being done by this employee who has hepatitis B. So kung wala naman silang company doctor, then yun nga po yung recommendation ni Doc Felix, they can go to the DOLE regional office. Tama po, Doc Felix, to help them. Okay. Yes, Doc Wendell, go ahead.
Anyway, in this slide po, we are very lucky to have you, as president of the PCOM, and Dr. Labanda is here po, occupational medicine, HSF, the Hepatology Society of the Philippines naman po, will be very willing po naman to what you call this, to partner with PCOM naman po, to educate our physicians naman po how to clear this patient. Medyo tricky kasi ito po So maybe aaralin yung phases of chronic hepatitis B, ano ba yung category na yan, anong lalagay namin, clear, unclear, tapos plan of monitoring, So the HSP naman po is going around the country, to train our physicians naman po, our colleagues, to share our expertise naman po, So in case magkaroon kayo ng project for training, just call us, we will be more than willing to
special courses si Doc Felix.
Oh.
Nasa special courses committee si Dr. Felix ng PCOM.
Actually, meron po kami Dr. Wendell na nakasabihan. If hindi mo alam ang gagawin, refer to your friendly gastroenterologist.
Ayun.
Hindi siya it's not a decision that you make lightly because mawawalan ng trabaho yung tao diba? So,
that's right.
Saying
Ika
na
nila
siya just because of that.
Oo nga. A few months ago po, HSP went to Marawi po, We gave this training, how to, yung lecture po ni Dr. Lozada. Those are the same slides that we use to train our physician, the primary care, because we want to, especially ito na po yung UHC, we want to empower our primary physicians po, ano. Of course,
Okay.
kung medyo busy si Doc, sige, pwede mong i-refer sa friendly gastroenterologists, more hepatologists. We are a phone call away lang naman po. But of course, kung we are very more than willing to help out our colleagues naman po, ano. So yun, just call us and we will be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc Wendell. Are we still good to answer more questions? Because we have more questions in the Q&A and another direct direct question to me as well. Are we still good, Doc Wendell? We're still good to answer more questions? Okay.
Maybe one or two questions would be.
All right. Sige po. So I guess I'll go with the first question that was in the Q&A. Nagagamot po ba ang Hepa B reactive? Yun po yung question from Ramilo Torreras.
All right.
Nagagamot
Thank you
po
for
ba
that.
ang Hepa
Okay.
B reactive?
Okay. Maybe I'll take that question po, no?
Yes.
Thank you for that question, no? As I have said, no, earlier, 80% of patients with hepatitis B can just live a normal life even without treatment. So hindi po lahat kailangan gamutin, no? Sino po ba yung dapat gamutin? Ito po yung may mga complications. For example, may cirrhosis na yung patient. Or may liver cancer na yung patient. Definitely kailangan niya yung gamutin po, ano? Ang another indication for treatment would be kung anong phase po ba siya, no? Immunotolerant phase, we don't treat, no? Inactive phase, we also don't treat, no? So there are only two phases na pwede nating gamutin, no? One is the immune active phase and the other one is the reactivation phase. Again, just to review, no? Yung immune active phase, mataas yung SGPT, HBV DNA mataas, no? E antigen positive or negative, no? Tapos persistent po na mataas yung HBV DNA nila, ALT nila or SGPT, kailangan pong gamutin yan. To be technical about it, no? Kung we have to classify kung E antigen positive ba siya, E antigen negative, no? Kung E antigen positive, may criteria po yan, no? Hindi lang basta-basta treat ka lang agad. Kasi magkakaroon tayo ng drug resistance po, ano? So we have may experience po tayo with the old drug, yung lamivudine, left and right, treat tayo. Just like yung TB, no? Pwede magkaroon ng drug resistance. But anyway, so yun, E antigen positive, E antigen negative, yung kung criteria doon, so E antigen positive, kung persistently yung ALT nila 2 times the upper normal limit, tapos yung HBV DNA nila more than 20,000 IUs per meals, no? Persistently, hindi lang basta pag nag-increase na, treat agad. Observe muna 3 to 6 months kung mataas pa din, no? Yung kung E antigen negative naman, no? Kung ang HBV DNA niya a little lower yung cutoff, kung more than 2,000 IUs per meals, no? Or ml. Tapos yung SGPT is 2 times the upper normal limit. So the short answer is yes, but there are certain indications lang po, ano? Yun. Tapos by the way, before I forget, hindi po ito na pag uminom ka ng 7 days or 4 weeks, tapos na. Para po itong gamot sa high blood or diabetes. So long as you take the drug, yes, so long as you take the drug, bababa yung blood pressure nila or yung blood sugar nila kung diabetes. Ganito din po. As long as you take the drug, bababa yung HBV DNA nila. Of course, it will translate to good prognosis, ano? So may mga meron naman pong stopping point kung kailan ka pwede mag-stop, no? So, yun.
Okay. Thank you, Doc Wendell. Very comprehensive. Naintindihan din yan. Okay. Another question for Doc Felix. Yeah, Doc Felix, we have a phone-in question from one of our members in PICOM, Dr. Eve Natividad. Yan. So her question is, for classification on pre-employment, hepatitis B patients or workers are class C? Question mark. Will we need to get a specialist clearance before fit to work? And class C because needs continuing or constant monitoring and specific placement if needed. So I guess the question is kung class C ba talaga? Yan.
Okay, so syempre,
And the
thank
clearance
you.
from specialist.
Thank you, Doktora. No? So, unang-una, bakit may Hep B screening sila? I always ask that, what type of work will you do that will require Hep B screening? Usually, gagawin mo lang yan kung blood bank yung iyong papasukin. Kung ikaw ay papasok as surgery. So, pero kung halimbawa, ikaw ay magiging staff, magpo-production ka, bakit mo siya itetest? Di ba merong kaninang risk categorization si Dr. Lazada na present, di ba? So kung nandoon ka sa non-medical, non-healthcare, the probability of transmission is quite low. So ngayon, dahil tinest ang
healthcare po.
hepatitis B, kung healthcare siya papasok. So kung healthcare siya, tas hepatitis B positive siya, actually related to dun sa isa pang question dun sa Q&A box eh. Kapag ganun kasi, kailangan natin siyang i-categorize as class C kasi pag kinategorize na po siya as class B, papasok na yon, di ba? Pwede na siyang ma-employ eh. Pero class C, hindi siya outright bawal mag-work, pero kailangan mo na siyang makita ng ating pong friendly hepatologists and gastroenterologists. Bakit? Kasi kapag hindi mo idinaan doon, yung sinasabi ni Dr. Wendell na ito kailangan mong inumin, yung paliwanag niya na ito ay ganitong klase ng sakit. Ito ang tinetest natin for the next 6 months, for the next 3 months. Ito yung gagawin natin. Yung plan of action na yun, it is not within our jurisdiction. Kumbaga, hindi natin yung lookout eh. Lookout yun ng ating mga kasamahan na nasa ospital. Pero, sigurado naman, tulad ng binabanggit ng Hepatology Society, hepatitis B should not restrict you from working. So definitely, mabibigyan sila ng clearance. Pero yung plan of action moving forward, meron na ngayon si worker na alam, ito pala yung plan of action. That is why it's always a class C with clearance. Kaya po, yung sa susunod na tanong dun sa Q&A, opo, kailangan pong kumuha talaga ng clearance kasi the clearance is not just about a medical certificate, a piece of paper. It's information relating to how you can prevent the transmission, how you prevent the progression of the diseases related to hepatitis B para hindi ka mag-cirrhosis, hindi ka mag-cancer, yung mga ganon. So, it's not just a piece of paper. For me, clearance relating to hepatitis B, lalo na pag kinuha nyo sa tamang sa tamang specialization, is not just a piece. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Doc Felix. Very clear. And also, we had very clear explanation as well from Dr. Wendell with regards to kung pwede bang matreat ang reactive antigen test. Ayan.
By the way po, Doc,
yes.
merong segue. For our primary physician friends, or PCOM, you can visit hsp.org.ph. Meron po dong resources for doctors. Scroll down nyo lang po. Yung lecture po kanina, nandun po yon. So,
okay, great.
very detailed po yung description how to clear patients. Nandun po yon. You can freely download po. Wala pong bayad yon. So you're welcome to visit hsp.org.ph po. Or just type in Hepatology Society of the Philippines. It will bring you there po. Thank you.
All right.
Pero,
Thank you.
Pero Dr. Wendell, the purpose of that is not for us to clear, but for us to have a knowledge or information na ang reason bakit mo siya ipapadala sa specialist mo is because of this. Yung knowledge ng specialist, yung experience ng specialist, ang hinahabol mo nito. Because down the line, habang siya ay nasa loob ng kumpanya, ano pa ang susunod na mangyayari? Because we get it from them. That's the experience. Tapos tayo naman, being primary care, ito na yung susunod kong gagawin because we are all being guided by yung kung ano napag-agrihan ng HSP as the best approach to hepatitis B, lalo na pag chronic, di ba? Marami pa yung susunod na kabanata eh.
Agree po,
Oo
Doc
nga.
Felix, ano? But as much as possible, we want to empower our primary physicians colleague, we want to empower them. But yun nga, siguro as professionals naman po, kung feeling mo mukhang mahirap to, mukhang complicated, I'm sure your friendly gastroenterologist or hepatologist will be more than willing to help out, no?
Thank you. Thank you, Doc Wendell. Thank you also, Doc Felix. So are we okay to answer just one last question? Meron talagang may gustong magtanong po sa atin, no? From an anonymous attendee. So, medyo sunod-sunod kasi yung question niya. I think na-answer na yung first question niya regarding sa yung nagpa-medical siya, nag-positive siya sa HBs antigen, and then kung magpapa-clearance ba. So yes, na-answer yun, right? Kailangan magpa-clearance po tayo sa ating friendly gastroenterologist or internal medicine specialist. Ang question niya is, saan daw po siya pwedeng makakuha ng clearance? So again, nasagot din yan kanina, saan ka pwedeng makakuha ng clearance? Either from the specialist ng ating mga gastroenterology or IM, or kung ito ay para sa trabaho, para sa pre-employment, no, kay Dr. Felix. But I guess nitong last question niya, tinatanong po niya, need ko pa po ba magpa-lab test ulit para makakuha ng clearance? Or pwede ko na po ba ipakita sa gastro yung result ng laboratory? So siguro konting explain pa po. From both, anyone can go.
Maybe I'll take the
Ako
first.
muna, Doc Wendell, kasi sa'yo yung pang-finale eh.
Oh, anyway po,
Okay.
depende po siguro yun, no? Kung yung laboratories nila, kasi expensive din yung mga laboratories eh. Tapos naghahanap ka pa ng trabaho, so syempre financial burden po yun, no? Kung yung laboratories po nila was just a week or a month ago, okay lang yan. Pero kung for example more than 6 months na yung laboratory, kasi po dapat yung usually po yung time interval for monitoring is mga every 3 to 6 months, no? Usually every 6 months, no? So when we give clearance, for example, plan for monitoring, nakalagay po dyan, no? Kung anong request ng company physician, nakalagay po doon kung how frequent it will be. So usually 6 months. Pero kung more than 6 months na, then maybe you have to repeat the tests, no? Usually at least 3. Yung ultrasound, yung e-antigen, tapos yung ALT. Yung ultrasound, hindi naman every 6 months, except lang kung high risk siya for liver cancer, maybe that's a different topic. Yun, tapos HBV DNA, kung kaya po, no? So, yun, I hope I have answered the question.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Doc Wendell. So actually, that's a very good answer, no, na at least na-clear sa kanya, kailangan niyang i-repeat kung kumbaga pasok na yung kanyang test result na dadalhin dapat sa inyo. Yung pala ay more than 6 months ago na pala yung last na pag-test sa kanya nung ano. Okay. So, Dr. Felix, anything to add or okay na po yun?
Yung sa sinabi ni Dr. Wendell, kasi that is the pinaka yun yung pinaka pattern na sinusundan. Pero usually ang magiging dala ng pasyente is just an HBsAg screening. Di ba?
Yeah, right.
So malamang ang tanong niya, pag pupunta ba ako kay Dr. Wendell, ay pwede na ba yung HBsAg screening ko or magpapa-confirmatory na ako? Hindi po. Yung kung ano yung binigay sa inyo na dahilan kung ba't kayo hindi ma-fit to work, yung po ang dalhin nyo sa inyo pong friendly gastroenterologist or hepatologist. Bakit? Kasi yung susunod ng mga plan, katulad ng binanggit ni Dr. Wendell kanina, yun ang susundin natin. It is useless to undergo a test na hindi naman pala kailangan ng doktor na magtitingin sa iyo or magki-clear sa iyo. Kaya best na kung sino ang magki-clear sa iyo, doon ka humingi ng susunod pang gagawin para matipid kasi hirap ang pera. Be guided.
Tama po. Tama po. So kumbaga kung sino din ang nag-request nung nung laboratory test na yon bumalik din sa kanya para
Mm-mm.
ipakita sa kanya. No?
Mm-mm.
Tapos siya nang mag-refer kung kailangan i-refer pa po sa ating mga
Correct.
friendly gastroenterology. Yan.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that is all the questions that I see in the chat box and in our Q&A. So are we good? Would you like to have maybe one final maybe message for our audience? If I can start first with Doc Felix and then Doc Wendell po.
Okay, sige. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much to everyone that participated and attended in this particular activity of promoting a healthier workforce regardless of your hepatitis B status. Because you are not just a status, you are a worker and you are important to the state, and we value you and your contribution to the economy. Thank you very much and have a safe and healthy afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. Felix. Dr. Wendell?
As previously alluded to, hindi po ibig sabihin na may hepatitis B kayo, wala ng pag-asa. Meron pa po, kailangan lang po kayo masuri, no? At saka may mga protocols lang po na kailangan i-follow. Hindi dahil para din po sa kabutihan ng ano po yun, ng employee, no? So may pag-asa po kahit may hepatitis B po. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So again, thank you to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Labanda, Dr. Lozada, and of course, Dr. Wendell for stepping in for Dr. Lozada. Okay, so now for our closing remarks, we would like to give the floor to Dr. Ome Romel Punongbayan, the President of the Philippine Society of General Internal Medicine. Also, our colleague, the chair and of the National Board and of the Residency Training Program of the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, a member of the Philippine Association of Medical Journal Editors, and of course, a fellow of the Philippine College of Physicians and the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine. Dr. Ome, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ria. So good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon, Pilipinas. Liver cancer and viral hepatitis are both preventable with early screening and detection and prevention strategies as simple as vaccination. The stakeholders, especially the medical specialty and the subspecialty societies, together with advocates, are working closely with the government through the universal healthcare to achieve our common goal of ending these diseases. Awareness is essential to this battle. This prevents discrimination for deserving and qualified workers. But I guess together, there's no way we cannot end this problem. Lahat dapat kasali. Sama-sama nating i-achieve ang malusog na atay at masayang buhay. With that, good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Doc Ome. All right, and truly, we've all learned a lot from the Q&A, from the lectures, and of course, with the words of wisdom from our esteemed officers of the Hepatology Society of the Philippines and all the stakeholders of this program. So for our upcoming activities in the celebration of this month, no, we have the PCP sa Radyo Veritas. I am informed. Dagdag kaalaman sa pangkalahatang kalusugan, ang buhay ng Filipino na may hepatitis B, pagbantay sa kalusugan ng atay, to be given by Dr. Angela D. Salvania. Yeah, that will be on January 14, 2023. This coming Saturday, that's tomorrow, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. with anchors Dr. Gingerlita Samonte and Father Joel Sabaya. Okay. Next, also from the Philippine College of Physicians, a Committee on Media Communication in collaboration with the Hepatology Society of the Philippines presents PCP Health Forum, Disease Burden of Liver Cancer in the Philippines and its Treatment, with speakers Dr. Diana Payawal and Dr. Wendell Espinosa. And again, their moderator will be Dr. Guinevere Agra. Yeah, that will be on January 17, 2023, this Tuesday at 10 a.m. Please stay tuned at the PCP Facebook Live and Zoom with the following details for their Zoom. All right, thank you. And special thanks, of course, to our tech partner, Gets Pharma. So thank you also for leading us through this webinar, this Zoom webinar. And so with that, any deaths from preventable disease are unacceptable. And even with liver cancer and viral hepatitis, we can prevent. And so to prevent, we must be aware. And let us make sure malusog na atay, masayang buhay para sa ating lahat ng mga pasyente. Thank you and happy weekend to everyone.